Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books. My name is Drake. 2018 has been an amazing year for superhero comics in my personal opinion, and this was originally going to be a YouTube community post, but then it ended up being too long, so I started turning it into a script, and I got 5 pages in and I realized, wow, this is really long, I'm gonna have to break this into Marvel and DC videos, so this is the Marvel one. Before we jump into things, I need to put up the obligatory, these are my opinions, it is fine if you disagree, right here at the beginning of the video. If you don't like some of the books that I talk about, great, more power to you, but it's my video, these are my thoughts. I frankly don't care if you don't like something I like or vice versa. I also want to make it clear that these aren't going to be in-depth reviews of these various books because one, that would take way too long and I don't want this to turn into an hour-long video, and also, I don't make reviews. These are just some of my thoughts on books that I enjoyed and or that I thought were worth talking about. So without further ado, here are my favorite Marvel comics of 2018, and who knows, maybe you'll find a book that you missed out on that you might want to read. I have talked about it ad nauseum, but I have been a huge fan of Jason Aaron's work on the Thor series ever since Thor: God of Thunder. I especially love how all of his Thor books have an overall meta plot that carry over from the previous series. I'm of the unpopular opinion that Jane Foster made a great Thor, especially since the meta plot worked with her well. But I won't deny that it is great to have the Odin son back in the role. It has been great seeing him coping with Mjolnir being gone, and the stories are very Thor. Lots of action, lots of spectacle, great art, and with backups featuring the future Thor from God of Thunder, it's like a greatest hits compilation of Aaron's work on the series over the past few years. And while I'm sitting here gushing about Jason Aaron, let me also talk about his run on the Avengers, which launched earlier this year. You got the core trinity of Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, but also Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, She-Hulk, Black Panther, and one of my favorite Marvel characters, Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider. That is a pretty awesome team in my opinion. Team books are usually hard to get right since every character needs their time to shine, especially characters this beloved and iconic, but Aaron does a great job with it. The most recent issues also introduce a new antagonist that I am massively hyped to talk about, but it's such an interesting reveal and one that people wouldn't expect that I don't want to spoil it here. Let me just say though that even casual MCU fans are going to know who he is. Much like Jason Aaron's Thor series, Avengers has occasional backups that feature a team of prehistoric Avengers. Does it frustrate me that these contradict the established Marvel lore? Yes. Is it still badass though? Absolutely. Come on, the ancient Ghost Rider rides a freaking woolly mammoth. That's pretty badass. But you know what Ghost Rider is even more badass? The Cosmic Ghost Rider. He's the Punisher, but he's also a Herald of Galactus and a Ghost Rider. If that description sounds fun, then this series is for you and there's nothing else I really need to say. However, I have to point out that it really seems like Donny Cates and Jason Aaron have been trying to out-badass each other, and wow, it has been a fun ride. I've liked Cosmic Ghost Rider since he first appeared in the Thanos solo book, but I am just so glad that he's become enough of a fan favorite to stick around and will be getting even more appearances in 2019. Speaking of Donny Cates, his time on Doctor Strange has been a delightful romp as well. This run started at the tail end of 2017, but it goes all over the place. From dealing with Loki as Sorcerer Supreme, to the Sentry vs. Asgard, to introducing Bats the Ghost Dog as a delightful mainstay of the Doctor Strange mythos. A lot of it ties into the Damnation event, which I thought was pretty good, but I think that Donny Cates' work in 2018 really helped cement him as one of the best comic writers of the modern era. Although, this run is also where we got this face, and thanks, I hate it. It's awesome that even though Donny Cates did a great job on Doctor Strange and gave his run a proper conclusion, another run immediately started up, and this time it had Mark Waid at the helm. It's Doctor Strange in Space! It's a nice change of pace from the usual Doctor Strange setting and plays with how the character works a lot. I really liked this bit about how Strange keeps on using enchanted artifacts, but he never had any that he's made himself. It's something I never considered, and the tools he makes are pretty badass. Oh, and the inclusion of Kana as a supporting character is great and all, but the idea that she's an arcanologist is such an awesome concept that I think needs to be implemented in more stuff outside of just this book and Hearthstone. My favorite comic book of all time is an indie title named Invincible, and it ended at the very beginning of 2018 with a very emotional conclusion that was perfect. Ryan Ottley was the main artist on the series for the majority of it, and the newest Spider-Man solo series by Nick Spencer similarly has Ottley for a good chunk of the art. The way Ottley draws Peter and Mary Jane looks damn near identical to the main characters of Invincible, Mark Grayson and Eve Wilkins. So I might be a little bit biased because seeing Ottley's art already triggers such a positive emotional response in me. However, I also really liked Nick Spencer's time on Ant-Man, so his experience with writing comedic characters just fits Spider-Man really well. Now we have Peter and Mary Jane back together, along with fun plots like Peter and Spider-Man becoming two separate entities, a master group of thieves stealing every superhero's equipment, and an awesome subplot of MJ attending an anonymous support group for friends and family of superheroes makes this one of my favorite series of 2018. Speaking of Spider-Man, Chip Zdarsky continued a series that he started last year, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. I usually don't like time travel stories, but most of this year's issues revolved around a pretty good one. It might also help that J. Jonah Jameson became a recurring main character, especially with Peter finally revealing his identity to him at the tail end of 2017. The rest of it ties into the Spider-Geddon event, which was fine. I liked how Peter's involvement with the event was pretty separate from the rest of it, and it was more of a one-on-one fight against Morlun. Overall, very solid series, and yet another feather in the cap of Zdarsky's impressive works. Continuing since its launch in 2017, the most recent incarnation of The Runaways is just a damn feel-good book that makes me smile with every issue. It really captures the feel of the original series that I love so much, and expands on characters and their dynamics in awesome ways that also pays off some minor details from the old books. I really do think that at this point, Rowell's time on The Runaways is the best that the series has ever had, so if you like the past runs at all, this is a book that you should be reading. The first Unstoppable Wasp series in 2017 was interesting since it really seemed to just exist to bring a version of Hope Pym from the MCU to the comics, but they did it in such an interesting way with Hank Pym's long-lost daughter Nadia, which roughly translates to Hope in Russian, who was raised in the Red Room, the same facility that produced Black Widow. Certainly a unique take, but I found the last series to be an unexpected treat. The relaunch is more of the same, and I can't complain. It's not super serious, and a lot of self-proclaimed alpha males might hate just how much it focuses on girl power, which I will admit kind of goes overboard from time to time. While the last series focused on Nadia assembling her group of scientists looking to change the world, this new one hones in on the group in action. Plus, Nadia's interactions with Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp, is just plain adorable and heartwarming. Oh, and did I mention that it's drawn by Guri Hiru, the same duo that drew one of my all-time favorite books, Gwenpool? I mentioned this to the writer, and we're in agreement that they're born to draw literally every character in existence. If you've been around my channel for a while, then you probably know that I love Kamala Khan as Miss Marvel. And while this is another book that's been going on for a few years, the 2018 issues have been pretty great in my opinion. A large chunk of them deal with Kamala being gone and her supporting cast taking over defending the town. When she returns though, Kamala finally comes out to her friends and reveals her double life as Miss Marvel, which, surprise, they already knew. A big part of the charm of the Miss Marvel series has been her interactions with her supporting characters, and they are just as heartwarming as ever. The series has been pretty consistent and puts me in a good mood every time, so if that's your jam, pick it up. She also fights the Shocker, and it's pretty damn good. Old Man Logan was a good book, so of course I'm a sucker for a prequel set in the same universe. Even though he's miserable, Hawkeye makes for a perkier protagonist than Logan, and he travels a lot of the wasteland, which helps flesh out more of the world and pieces together more of the universe's history, especially from Hawkeye's perspective. The miniseries recently ended and even has a post-credit stinger in comic form, so I don't think we're going to see the last of the wastelands anytime soon. If you've been wanting to read or have read Old Man Logan, then give this book a chance. I'll be real, a lot of X-Force and super 90s characters really don't appeal to me, but I have always loved the idea of Domino. She's a quirky assassin focused on money and has luck powers? Sign me up. I mean, it's nothing new for Marvel with other characters like Black Cat and Longshot having the exact same power set, but it's still a neat concept. While she's had some solo series in the past, Domino always struck me as a character whose powers make her uniquely qualified to be the main character of a book and not just a supporting role. How a good writer can play with her ability of good luck would lead to interesting scenarios where the world seemingly bends itself to give her an edge. This is one of the reasons why I think Gail Simone's run on Domino has been a lot of fun. Plus, characters like Diamondback and Outlaw give a good dynamic, but they're background enough that Domino can still have solo adventures. I really like how the recent antagonist of the series is Longshot, and I'm excited to see what it looks like for two luck-based superheroes to fight each other. Rogue and Gambit are married now. If you like the characters and you like them as a couple, you'll like this book. The series starts out with them having a honeymoon in space, but things go wrong because comics. Rogue and Gambit play off of each other really well, but they also jump the gun on getting married, so they don't quite know what it'll be like. Hell, Rogue didn't even meet Gambit's cats before the wedding. It's a cute book that's full of typical action and banter that you'd expect from an X-Men book, and because of that, plenty of other characters make appearances to the point where it sort of feels like a team-up book with a rotating cast of guest characters. It's good, mostly wholesome fun with great art from Oscar Bazaldua that fits the tone nicely and pops right off the page. The Sentry is a confusing character, and that's kind of the point. He was designed to be a long-forgotten character, and because of that, a lot of his history is unknown. The most recent series focuses on the Sentry locking away his dangerous alter ego inside of a digital world while he lives a mundane life. But every night he enters the digital world and fights crime. He's addicted to the rush that comes with heroism, but also so is his former sidekick who's been depowered for years. I don't want to spoil any more, but it's a good book. Give it a read. Look, I thought that Riri Williams temporarily taking over the Iron Man series was fine, but there's no replacing Tony Stark. Well, Tony is back with a vengeance. He's got a lot more novelty suits, which hurts me trying to catalog, especially since I've been on and off working on a comprehensive video talking about all of the suits that he's used over the years. But the sheer number and versatility is very Tony. I mean, in literally the first issue, he hops into a giant iron mech and fights an alien dragon, which sets the tone for the entire series really well. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Now for some special shoutouts. These books either ended at the very beginning of 2018 or started right at the end. Either way, there isn't a lot to talk about, so I can't quite call them my favorites. I mentioned it earlier, but I adored the Unbelievable Gwenpool series. I thought I would hate the character, but Christopher Hastings' amazing writing coupled with Gurihiro's fantastic art turned it into one of my all-time favorite Marvel books. It ended at the beginning of 2018 and wrapped up plot threads while also somehow managing to expand upon Gwen's powers up until the very end. The last issue especially was extremely heartwarming and gave a satisfying conclusion to the series as a whole. Gwenpool has since gone on to be a main character in the West Coast Avengers, but while I am enjoying that book, it doesn't hold a candle to her solo run. My only hope is that Gwen will one day get a series of her own again, and that it's just as good as the one before it. Having just come out right at the end of 2018, the first issue of Superior Spider-Man knocked it out of the park. The original Superior Spider-Man run is my favorite Spidey book, so it's great to see Dr. Octopus in the role where I think that he shines the best, a hero that uses villain tropes. This first issue really nails the tone of the previous series and sets up what is looking to be a very promising series. And come on, Doc Ock's suit has freaking black webs. I love it. Okay, look. I know a lot of people like this book, and I think that it is fine. I've never been a big fan of the Hulk or horror, so this book really isn't for me. I still read it issue to issue since it is enjoyable, but it's not one of my favorites. However, I don't want to ignore that lots and lots and lots of people adore this book. So I want to throw it in here before people throw hissy fits in the comments about me not including it. It's not bad by any means. Now, there are plenty of other Marvel books that I enjoyed this year, like Iceman, Champion, Spider-Geddon, Infinity Wars, Venom, Life of Captain Marvel, X-Men Blue, X-Men Red, Jessica Jones, and some that I am sure that I'm forgetting, but I think this is a good place to stop. If any of these books sound interesting, then please, please, please give them a read. And don't forget, support your local comic shop! Or go to Comixology if you don't have one. There's one word that I mentioned over and over and over in this video. Fun. To me, that is the most important thing that a comic needs to be in order to be enjoyable. And sure, I love me some books that dive into dark, serious subject matter, but in my opinion, it's possible to do all of that while still being fun. You can have fun characters, themes, situations, etc. It's not a bad thing. And no, before you guys request it in the comments, I am not going to be doing the worst comics of 2018 because I frankly don't know what they are. I don't waste my limited free time by reading books that I don't enjoy. That just seems really counterproductive. If you want that kind of hate mongering, then I am sure you can find it online. In fact, I can guarantee it. But that is not something that I want to add to with this platform. But if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing or even watching another one? And if you like this, then maybe you'll enjoy the video that I did on the complete history of Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham. It's a video that a lot of people seem to have missed, but I spent a lot of time working on it, and I think you guys might enjoy it. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.